I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm willing to work as hard as I can.
There is no past, there's no future, there's just this moment right here.
If I did that, if I can get through that, like, come at me.
Changing how I saw myself, like as a man, not just as an athlete.
It's okay that I struggle. It's okay. That's part of the deal. That's how I respond to it.
Welcome to the Limitless Athlete podcast. My name is Tom Foxley, founder of Mindset Rx'd and your host. Today, what we're going to be talking about is how to debrief the CrossFit Open from a mindset perspective. This is something that actually very few people do. They kind of just breeze through competition and then they're on to the next shiny object. They don't take enough time to reflect on what they did well, what they didn't go well. And this is something that I've decided to implement straight away with my athletes, because under the duress of something very challenging, we have the greatest opportunity to learn. And the CrossFit Open, it gives us the opportunity to learn, and it gives us the opportunity to get feedback under the pressure of the kind of the social side of it, under the physical pressure of intense workouts, under the unknown. And this all pulls out so much information that to ignore it is madness. Like I've written in the blog about this, that the quickest way to make the Open a complete failure is to learn nothing from it. And if you do not learn, then you might as well just not have done it. Like the whole purpose of this is to learn and to grow. So there's 4 steps to debriefing the CrossFit Open that I take with my athletes. The first one is praising the positive intentionally. Second one is growing from setbacks and disappointments. Third is increasing your self-awareness. And finally, taking action and creating a plan. So praising the positive. My mentor, Dr. Brian Grasso, said to me, we're too quick to count our scars and too slow to count our wins. And this has really stuck with me, because if you think back to your performance, I'm going to guess what you remember is all the things that you did wrong. Like, sure, there might be a win here, a win there, but the negative events stand out. They're obvious to us. And there's some evolutionary reasons behind this. It's like we want to encounter those negatives, but we want to learn from them. And we also want to understand that actually there's a hell of a lot that we did better than last time that we did the Open. We've improved, we've grown, and there's things that we can be proud of. And if we don't take time to reinforce those, we lose that positivity and we lose the self-belief. I spoke to 3 people before doing this and to kind of get their ideas of how the Open was. And like there's 3 quotes in this, and I made a point of like saying something positive about them, like these people that I don't coach, and that I just know kind of vaguely about how their CrossFit Open went. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tell them something that I know they did kind of positively and kind of give them some praise first, and then just see what their reflection of their mindset and their performance was. And the first person came back and said, yeah, but man, I need to get stronger. I'm just weak as fuck. And I was like, okay, cool. So you like for a fraction of a second, there was a yeah, but then I need to get stronger. I'm weak as fuck. Like the negative stands out. The next thing was like flipping back to a workout, and you could almost see this athlete kind of go back into that version of themselves, and their shoulders kind of slumped. And it was like, they said, I just pussied out the cleans. I don't know why they suck so much. Sorry for the not great language there, but that's what they said. They're just like this confusion, the kind of inference of weakness again, and like not being good enough is in there. And the last one is like, it's kind of typical of people as well. It's like, I was never going to do well, and it showed. And this is how they were the only 3 people that I asked for this, and this is how they respond. Like, I was never going to do well, and it showed. It was this kind of like forecasting of negativity. Of course, if we never look at your weaknesses, you're never going to improve. But similarly, if you don't look at your positives, you're never going to believe in yourself. You're never going to grow. You're never going to lean into your athletic strengths or your mindset strengths. And you're never going to see the progress that's there. And you're also going to think you're fixed as this one human being. So I try and draw out as many positives from the experience before we get going, because that can often give us the growth that we need just by leaning into the positives more. So questions: what did you do well? How have you grown since last year? How did you display the character that you wanted to, and how are you proud of yourself? Like, when you do that, you're going to start reinforcing the story that you need. You're going to start identifying tactics that you can leverage that are associated with your strengths, and you build positivity and self-belief. So that's the first one, by building out those positives. Second one, exploring your setbacks and disappointments. Once I've worked with an athlete on the positives, and usually I do this on a call, so there's more kind of nuance to this. But once we've kind of worked through the positives, what we need to do is explore the setbacks and disappointments, and try and do this kind of like passively, like you're not getting worked up in it. You're not getting absorbed by it. So I'm trying to mine for data that they haven't seen before. I'm looking for the story behind it. I'm looking for the self-talk. I'm looking for the emotions, because hidden within failure is your exact recipe for growth. We need to be looking into it. Like I've said before, you need to fail as much as you can emotionally and physically tolerate. That is your exact path for growth, and your success depends on it. So turning away from your setbacks and disappointments is just this recipe for stagnation and pain and disappointment. So what we're doing here is like, okay, what happened? Like, exactly what happened? What kind of thoughts and emotions were swimming through your brain before the workout, during the workout, after the workout? Give me some info about this. What did that say about your beliefs about yourself? If a friend was saying that, what would you think they believed about themselves? Like, what story were they telling themselves? And then, like, were you regulated? Had you eaten? Were you stressed? Were you upregulated? Were you kind of nervous and stressed and anxious? Just tell me about it. And you're looking for that, and you're trying to gather information. Obviously, this is easier with a mindset coach at your side, but still, you can look through this and pull out these little gems of self-knowledge. And that leads me on to the third point here: growing your self-awareness. Whenever I speak to athletes, I find myself sketching out these weird little circles, and I didn't know why I was doing it to begin with. I was kind of like watching myself, like kind of sketching out these circles and kind of jotting ideas around. And then I realized that so many athletes, they just go round and round and round in these semi-conscious loops of like stress, anxiety, fear, or kind of disappointment, and then that influences how they feel about the workout, and then the workout kind of obviously goes according to how they feel about it, and then that reinforces the belief, and then that starts again, and they just go around these loops over and over and over again. And one thing that we can do within CrossFit, and during the CrossFit Open specifically, is pull these loops out. If you look back to your warm-ups, do you notice how you arrive at the box like kind of nervous, and then you say, okay, yeah, I'm going to put down my expectations, and like if someone says this is for you, you're going to do well at this, you go, oh no, not really, because of this injury and this reason, and then you don't believe in yourself because you're kind of reinforcing that, and then obviously you perform poorly, and then next week you kind of start the cycle again. Do you do that over and over and over again? Well, that might be something that's exacerbated in the open, but actually you're doing it throughout all your training sessions and through all competitions. And just becoming aware of those cycles is often enough to start the process of breaking them down, because then once they're obvious, you know where you're going to go to next, and you can see like the process, and you can go, okay, no, I'm going to put my hand in front of that domino and stop the transition and move forwards from that. And the final step is the one that everyone, well, I'm going to say that the people that I work with, they want to kind of ignore. They want to do the kind of fancy work of going through all this work and kind of the three steps that we've just encountered. But the last one is what actually creates a difference. And there's resistance to it because we want to keep things the same, and we don't want to threaten the kind of stability that you have in terms of your mindset and also your performance too much. It's kind of a weird counterintuitive thing. Final one, it's obvious. You need to take action. You need to change something. Start by highlighting one thing that and this is anyway, like you can do whatever you want. Like this is just what I do with my athletes. I highlight one thing that is the kind of the highest leverage opportunity for them. So which one of these things, if they solve, will have the greatest impact on the rest of their training and their life. And then we put together a plan for working on it. It's simple. Maybe that is just doing some strength work, some shoulder work after each session. Like that's my personal takeaway from the Open. So after each training session, just to do some overhead pressing and pulling and kind of put on a bit of size and strength for my upper body. But for other people, that could be, okay, I'm going to start training aggression as a character skill. Okay, I'm going to start training that predictability and the kind of the systemized process-based approach to warming up and being methodical about how I do things. There's a ton of different things, but like take action on at least one thing. There's a quote that I really like because it's so blunt. There's no difference between someone who does not read and someone who cannot read. And this applies to taking action too. There's no difference between someone who does not change anything because of the Open and someone who cannot change anything. Your job is to look at what you need to do and to take action from that. So wrapping this up, we've got to remember we take action, we grow our self-awareness, we explore our setbacks and disappointments, and we praise the positive. And the final thing that is so important here is the beginner's mind, to have a bit of humility about this, to take into consideration the fact that you're never really arriving at the final test. You're just learning and growing, and that's preparing you for your next challenge. No matter whether this is the year that you're going to win the CrossFit Games or whether it's your first Open ever, this is just prep for your next challenge. And the moment you forget that is the moment you start to become arrogant in this and you stop growing. So that is part of the debrief too. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I'd massively appreciate it if you headed to Spotify or wherever you listen to this and leave a little 5-star review. It will not only make my ego swell, even more than it already is, but it will also probably help some people find out about the show and hopefully train their mindset a little bit better too. And I know that there's a fair few of you, like the listenership of this podcast is growing quite steadily now. And like, I appreciate that massively. And a few of you are reaching out to me about working with me. And I massively appreciate that. Very kind. At the moment, I am completely ram-packed with athletes. I'm at capacity and I can't take anyone else on. But I do have some spots coming up soon. I think it's around 4 weeks or so. So if you want to kind of get ahead of the curve, shoot me a message on Instagram, which is at Tom Foxley, TomFoxley. Had to think about how to spell my own name then. And yeah, shoot me a message on Instagram and just say you're interested in pre-registering your kind of interest in my coaching. And I'll put you on a little form I've got and you'll be the first to know about any kind of opportunities that I have to work with me. So hopefully I'll hear from a few of you. It'd be a pleasure to do so. And if you want to hear about like anything else on the show as well, it'd be great to get some kind of ideas for what you want to hear about. What are you struggling with? And that can give me some ideas about how to help you. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the show, team, and I'll speak to you soon.